Convos with Grace B. This is your host, Grace B, coming to you from New York City, the city that never sleeps and is home to Cancer Convos with Grace B. I'd like to thank you guys so much for your continued support on my Facebook page and also for the new subscribers I've seen on my YouTube channel. It means we're doing a good thing. So thank you so much for everything. I really, really appreciate it from the bottom of my heart. It's the end of the year now, so we're winding down. We have back-to-back interviews with amazing guests, and one of them is someone who you guys would love to meet today. And I'll be introducing him to you very, very shortly. Now, for those of you who are watching us for the very first time, please don't forget to go to Facebook and like and follow us. And also, if this interview meets your expectations, please don't forget to also subscribe so that you could be aware of updates and other upcoming episodes. So let's dive straight into the show. I'd like to introduce Paul J. Sando, a fantastic guy, an IT director, an app developer who has a great passion in health, and who will also be collaborating very soon with us as regards certain things we're about to cook up soon. So welcome, Paul. Nice to see you.
It is very nice to see you again, Grace. Like I said, looking great today in our little free chat before. I'm so excited to be here. Thank you. It's an honor.
Oh, thank you so much. So let's get straight to the topic. Tell us a bit about yourself. I mean, your family, your growing up years, your education, just in brief, just people know, where you're coming from.
All right. Well, I was born and raised in Western Pennsylvania. Was born in Greenville and moved to Erie shortly thereafter. Was living in Erie and the surrounding towns for about 30 years. Family life growing up. Parents divorced when I was 8. Lived with my dad after that. I ended up have one younger brother, 2 years younger than me. Ended up moving out of the house at 17. Got married. Got divorced. We're going to get into all that story in a
Yeah.
video. Twice married, twice divorced. At around 30 years old, I relocated from Pennsylvania to Las Vegas for a job. I've spent almost the last decade in Vegas. And as of about 2 weeks ago, 10 days ago, well, actually it is 2 weeks now, I am now a resident of Fairfield, California. So just relocated to California, took a great new job as a service director for an IT company here locally in Northern California. And then I'm enjoying taking care of those clients while I build my own software company in the background, like you said, doing software work, public health and safety. So
that's awesome. That's awesome. So I'm very happy that you're beginning to settle in to California.
Just a little. California's a big adjustment. So.
From where you're coming from, yes, definitely. It must be. But you look very, as the French would say, à l'aise, at ease. You understand? And it shows it's rubbing off on you early enough.
Apparently.
That's good. So you happen to be a cancer survivor.
Mm-hmm.
I would like us, I'm sure the viewers would also like to know how your diagnosis was arrived at. Did you fall ill, or did you feel something wasn't right? How was it that you had it, and what stage was it at when you were diagnosed?
So anal cancer is very interesting. It's a cancer that, honestly, Grace, I didn't even know it existed until I was diagnosed with it. I didn't know it was you talk about breast cancer as the most common. There's about 250,000 new cases worldwide every year. For anal cancer, there are 1,200. Mm-hmm. So it's a very, very rare cancer. And it came across and manifested itself as basically hemorrhoids that would never end. I went to a primary care doctor. I went to urgent care. I went to a gastroenterologist. And over the course of like 9 or 12 months, it took a colorectal surgeon to figure out what was actually wrong. And what's funny is when I finally got all the way there, she was able to, she said in the very first appointment when she looked at it, she's like, I think this is a mass. Like right out of the gate, she said it. Whereas nobody prior to that had given me any indication that it was cancer at all. There was no suspicion from any other physician that I had met with that it was cancer. She was the first one, and she was so good and so talented. Stephanie Wishnev, amazing surgeon in Las Vegas. Probably one of the best doctors I've ever worked with. But yeah, she found it, but like I said, it was just hemorrhoids that would never end. And eventually we, discovered it was cancer.
Oh, wow. So it started up as hemorrhoids.
Yep. There was the symptoms of hemorrhoids. And I think what threw the gastroenterologist off, because I did get a colonoscopy, or a sigmoidoscopy, which is kind of a colonoscopy light. And he did say that I did have hemorrhoids, and that's what he thought it was. The big challenge with anal cancer is the cancer itself sits below the skin. So even a gastroenterologist may not see it, because a gastroenterologist is trained to find issues inside the lining of the digestive tract, not underneath the skin. Mm-hmm. And that's why he missed it. So it just wasn't visible to anybody unless you really knew what you were looking for. And it was stage 2 when it was found. My tumor was about 5.5 centimeters in size when they found it.
5.5 centimeters.
Yep.
Wow. And by this time, didn't you know that there was something not quite right? I mean, for it to grow to that size.
Well, it's funny because yes, and actually, Grace, I never really thought about it until you just said that. But the symptom that really stood out to me was I could no longer lay on my back because I was in constant discomfort.
Oh, wow.
And I didn't realize it at the time, but what was happening was the tumor was pressing against the nerves against the base of my spine and making it constantly uncomfortable. Like I don't know exactly what nerves were triggered. You'd have to ask a doctor about that one.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it was
the base of your spine. Yes, definitely.
Yeah, I couldn't sit and I couldn't lie back anymore. And I couldn't lie flat on a bed. I had to always lay on my side because laying on my back was incredibly painful.
Oh dear, I'm so sorry about that. That must have been terrible.
Yeah, especially since I was a back sleeper. I had to learn to adjust. For,
Sleep on your side or something.
Well, what's funny, Grace, is that problem actually what really made the whole not being able to lie on the back thing, it wasn't really, it was annoying during the whole figuring out what was wrong, but where it really got annoying was in radiation treatment. If you have to lie on your back.
I'm going to come to that. I'm going to come to that because, I'm going to come to that because getting radiation for something like that would be very, very uncomfortable, but we'll come to that. So okay. You said it was a stage 2, right? So
yep,
who were you dealing with at this time, apart from your doctor, the lady in Las Vegas that sent you there? Was it what oncology? Was it a colorectal surgeon that you had to see?
Yes. So it was a colorectal surgeon who diagnosed it, mm-hmm. and then she referred me to the Comprehensive Cancer Centers of Nevada, and they were the oncologists, and I had 2. Mm-hmm. I had one medical oncologist, and then I had one radiation oncologist. So yes. I had 2 different ones that I was dealing with, but really, she was the one who managed my treatment throughout the disease. They really just managed the chemo and radiation portions of it. But right. The surgeon herself took responsibility for managing my overall care.
Mm-hmm. So as regards the interventions, you did chemo and then radiation.
So the radiation and the chemo were actually side by side.
Oh,
so
wow.
For anal cancer, radiation is actually the primary treatment, not chemotherapy.
Mm.
So the radiation is 6 weeks, continuously, 5 days a week. And then the chemo is on week 2 and week 4 of radiation.
Okay.
And the chemotherapy is a long injection chemotherapy. So I had a port put in my chest.
Just like me, I still have my port here. Can you see it?
I got mine too. It's here. But yeah, my port is here. It's still in. I haven't had a chance to have it taken out yet. Mm-hmm. And we'll talk about that when we talk about the insurance and the money.
Sure.
But yeah. So they would put the port in and they would put the needle in, and they'd give me a pump in a bag, and I would carry that around all week long.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And then at the end of they put it in Monday afternoon, they take it out Friday afternoon.
Yes, because when I was undergoing chemotherapy as well, there were a couple of patients who also were carrying their chemotherapy around like a bag.
Yep.
Those for lung cancer, I think it was a couple of them that were treated for lung cancer, and that was the first time I was actually seeing that you could actually be mobile and do all you had to do, and didn't just have to sit in one place like we had to, you
Yeah.
know, 8 hours at a stretch. Oh, wow. So you did so it was like simultaneously the
Yep.
chemo and the radiation.
Yep.
Ah, So, take us through this, because I'm trying to visualize
Hmm.
how you were able to get radiation for anal cancer. Because for breast cancer, okay, it's there, it's going to be on your chest and everything. How did you have radiation done for you?
So it's full on lying down on the table with the
On your
radiation
back.
on my back. That's where we get into the pain. So they're literally, and of course, during a radiation treatment, you have to remain extraordinarily still. You move 1 micron in any direction, and you
And
can
that's
feel the
it,
beam.
yes.
You can
Because
feel the
your
beam on.
coordinates have been,
Yep.
locked on lockdown.
Yeah, so the machine that I had was the machine they treated me with was actually very advanced. It did a dual CAT scan to position the beam or to aim the beam first, and then it did 6 rotations of the machine with the beam. The problem was, Grace, that whole process takes about 10 to 12 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
And that means I'm lying on my back, often in severe pain, not from the radiation, but from the tumor itself hitting against
Yes.
the nerves. And it was all complicated by the fact that this happened in the middle of summer, my radiation and chemo did, in Las Vegas, and the cooling system on the radiation
It's
machine was down.
hot.
Well, the cooling system on the radiation machine was down,
Oh, wow.
which means that the radiation machine would overheat sometimes in the middle of a treatment and stop, which meant I had to have, not only was it the 10 to 12 minutes of treatment, I would often have to wait 3 to 5 minutes for the machine to cool back down so they could continue the treatment.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so it was, there were days when I was sobbing and screaming. Through all that, I'm pretty proud of myself. I only actually stopped 1 radiation treatment. I only skipped 1. Out of 30, I skipped 1, so I'm pretty proud of myself for that.
Mm-hmm.
But yes, there were moments I was screaming. I was begging the radiation technologist, please turn the machine back on. Because when you're in that much pain, you don't care if the damn machine overheats. You just want the treatment to be over.
Exactly.
You don't
Oh,
care.
wow. You
Get it
don't
over
care.
with.
You're like, get it all over and done with. Let me breathe. Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I'm so sorry about that. It's amazing what we go through. Looking back now that we're still standing,
Oh
honestly,
yeah.
it ain't
Yeah.
easy.
Yeah.
So what cancer does, you hear a lot of crazy stories out there regarding relationships, regarding friendships. I know that going through a traumatic experience like this, a lot happens on the home front. Did you have any, any experiences with your boyfriend or your spouse or your family? What happened?
Every relationship that I had changed. Every single one. There wasn't a single relationship that didn't change. I was married going into my cancer diagnosis, and the relationship was already severely dysfunctional before cancer came along. It was
Okay.
very codependent. It was not a healthy relationship. It was, we were both around each other. We were together because we couldn't really figure out anybody else to be with, and we didn't want to be alone.
Mm-hmm.
So very, very codependent relationship, very unhealthy. I had actually asked for a divorce the week before my diagnosis. And then when I got diagnosed, even my therapist was like, you don't need divorce and cancer at the same time. Just wait on the divorce. And I almost thought, Grace, at first it would help repair the relationship, because he
Mm-hmm.
seemed enthusiastic about helping me. He really seemed to care. It seemed to shift his attitude.
Mm-hmm.
But like most dysfunctional relationships, any change doesn't last very long.
Mm-hmm.
And in the end, after he stood by me through the treatment, but after the chemo and the radiation, I had to
Mm-hmm.
wait for 12 weeks. And after that, I ended up back in the hospital because they needed to do surgery. They had to do an abdominoperineal resection, or an APR, which is basically they put in a colostomy, which I'll have
Yes.
for the rest of the life. They had to cut the tumor out. The radiation didn't get rid of it, so they had to cut the tumor out, cut out the anus, the rectum, the end of the intestine.
Mm-hmm.
They open up the abdomen. They pass the healthy intestine through the abdominal wall. They sew it together, and then I'm putting waste into a colostomy for the rest of my life. So
Mm-hmm.
But through that process, I ended up in the hospital for somewhere around the neighborhood of 60 days. Mm-hmm. And my husband at the time saw me 6 times during that 60 days.
6 times in 60 days.
6 times in 60 days.
60 days is 2 months, you know.
Yeah, 60 days is 2 months. So 6 days in 2 months. And it was, and friends, friendships, the depth of friendships is also challenged in cancer because, I had people, you hear about GoFundMe, people putting together GoFundMes and helping with resources and finances. And I got one of those. And my former coworkers, or my coworkers at the time, colleagues, clients, came together and donated about $6,000 or $7,000 to help with my medical expenses, which was awesome.
Awesome.
But the problem is, in that moment, Grace, I didn't really care about their money. I cared about their time.
Yes.
Because I was desperately alone.
When you're going through that, you don't care about the money. It's the time of your loved ones. Exactly. Yeah. I feel you there.
Yeah, and I had a few friends who came and visit. Most did not come and visit me at all. And that's the fear. As much as I love GoFundMe and I use the platform and I like donating on the platform, it's an easy way to cop out of our responsibilities to other people. Mm-hmm. Sometimes when you're like, I've donated money, that's all I really need to do.
Yes, and that's not it. That's not what you need. Mm.
Yeah, and even my own stepmother, my stepmother asked me if she should come out when I was going through radiation, and I said, I tried to put on a brave face, and I said, no, I'm fine. Mm-hmm. And at the end of it, Grace, after all of it was said and done, and after I had asked for a divorce and I was on my own again, I told my stepmother, I says, where were you? You said you would come out. And she said, well, you said you were fine. I want to tell everybody, listen, this is the thing that your audience needs to hear more than anything else.
Yes, please go ahead.
If a cancer patient tells you that they are fine, they are lying.
Absolutely.
They are absolutely lying. And if you care about that person, push through that, please.
Yes.
Because we are all trying to put a brave face on for the world while we have to face down death itself. And
absolutely.
Absolutely the most terrifying experience I've ever had in my entire life. And I would beg you, if you hear a cancer patient and you hear them say they're fine and they're in the middle of treatment, they are not fine.
Even when they finish treatment, they're not fine.
Yeah.
It takes a while when you're healing, even when you're in remission. Yep. There's a lot still going on that people see you and think, oh, she's fine now or he's fine now. It's never, ever. And they don't understand that because you've been through so much and you're trying to readjust, and people don't know that it's difficult. You've lost pieces of you that you can never, ever get back. And when I talk about pieces, it's psychological now because your mind has been through so much. It's not physical or whatever.
Oh yeah, no, the mental transformation is
mental transformation.
Yeah, it's mental, it's psychological, it's spiritual, it's everything. Everything in your life is changed. And it starts the moment that the doctor says it's cancer, and it never ends.
Yep.
It never ends. From that moment on.
Once you get that, once you hear that you've gotten the C, that's it. Your life has changed forever.
Yep.
There's no going back.
There's no going back.
So I know what as we cancer survivors go through when it comes to our finances. I mean, it's crazy. How were you able to cope financially with all the treatments? Were you covered by insurance at work or out-of-pocket expenses?
It goes back. It's funny. It goes back to the whole conversation about money versus time. And I was incredibly lucky. I had very good insurance at the time, and my employer ran a PTO drive for all my coworkers to donate, and my coworkers donated 400 hours of PTO. So I was able to keep getting paid for almost.
That's PTO means you're being paid whilst you're away from work, right?
Paid time off, yeah. Paid time off.
Okay.
So they donated time.
So the viewers know, yeah.
So they donated paid time off so that I could be paid. And then at the very end, I ran out of all of that, and the owner of the company contributed 4 paychecks worth of salary as well. So that's another $10,000 he contributed.
Fantastic.
But As far as the medical expenses during treatment, and we're talking from the moment of diagnosis until I got out of the hospital. So we're talking from the beginning of April until December 15th.
Mm-hmm.
I paid out of pocket. Now, remember, there were some contributions that helped cover this.
Sure.
But for just the medical expenses, the out of pocket was about $9,000. But the pre-bill, like the insurance covered amount, was somewhere in the neighborhood of $718,000.
Yep, that's yeah. Mine
Yeah.
is almost $1 million.
Yeah, it's frightening. Now, yeah, of course, the
No,
insurance
mine
companies
is
do
almost $1
the best
million.
they can. Yeah, but it's incredibly expensive. It's incredibly expensive.
Very expensive.
Yeah, and the worst part is, Grace, is we talk about the mental transformation, and as bad as it got for me shortly after I was done being treated, Grace, it's been a roller coaster up since then. It really has started to transform.
Beautiful.
It has. But interestingly enough, as my attitude and my health and my attitude and my outlook have improved, my financial situation has continued to get worse.
Hmm.
It made me realize how short life is, right? And it's like I got to take advantage of every opportunity. So as much as that old job did for me, for my own career, I made the decision to move to a different company, which means that I lost my health insurance. And then that company didn't work out after 90 days, and I lost that job, and I didn't have any health insurance at all. So after I got my all clear from the surgery itself, I have had none of the follow-up care that I was supposed to have. I've had my surgery a year ago now. A year and 2 months ago was my surgery. I've had no PET scans. I've had no visits with an oncologist, no follow-up visits with a doctor because I couldn't afford them.
Because you couldn't afford them, yes.
Right. And that actually played a big role in my decision to relocate from Las Vegas to Nevada, or from Nevada to California. Because the healthcare system in California is much more, a PET scan that has a $3,000 deductible in Nevada has a $75 copay in California.
Imagine that. From $3,000 to $75.
Right.
It was worth your moving.
It was absolutely worth it.
Because these are things that we have to be on top of.
Oh yeah, no.
You need those follow-up visits.
Well, yeah, and Grace, this is my worst. This is the worst thing. This is the things your listeners will judge and watchers will judge me for more than anything. I still smoke cigarettes. Even though I have survived cancer, and it's one of the things that just keeps poking at me. I'm actually working with some coaches right now to try and figure out why, because I've tried everything I can to quit, every method I can think of, and I'm still hung up on it. But cancer doesn't magically change your outlook on your health. It doesn't get rid of all the challenges. It adds new ones, and it transforms the ones you've got. But, and I thought cancer sure as hell, like I thought, 7 days in the hospital for my surgery, they won't let me smoke while I'm in a hospital bed. So,
so how did you manage in hospital?
Well, it was funny. I was fine. I don't know what it was, but for the 7 days after my first surgery, because I was in, out, like repeatedly. But for the first 7 days of my surgery, I was like, 7 days without nicotine. By then, the nic fits will be gone. I'll be fine. Sure as shit, the first thing I did after I got in the car in the hospital, before I even got home, I was like, you better stop and buy me a pack of cigarettes. I told my husband. And it was, and so I definitely need to stay on top of it. And you need to, and that's what we were talking about. It changes life forever.
It does.
They suggest the PET scans every 6 months for 3 years. But even then, you Grace, even if I get the all clear for the next 3 years on my PET scans, I'm always going to be thinking, what's going on inside me? And that's really what goes on in your brain.
Sweetheart, that's what we all think about.
Yeah.
If I get a pinch or a pain here or whatever, my mind is in a whirlwind. Is something coming up or what's happening? You start getting frightened and all that. That's the mental part of it that you really have to be tough. You have to be tough on yourself about, and just it's not like you're wishing it away, but you don't want to compound issues.
Right.
Because once your mind starts going, your mental health starts going down, my dear, you can't get it back up again.
Oh yeah, no, it's a huge and it's
a huge problem.
Really, really critical.
Yes.
Really, really critical.
Yeah, we all think about that. Going to the mental health part, how were you able to manage that?
So the first and foremost thing that got me through the cancer was an amazing therapist. I cannot understate, when you are dealing with cancer, you are surrounded by doctors. You've got at least one oncologist, probably two, maybe three, depending upon the level of treatment you're getting. You've got your surgeons, you've got your primary care doctor. You're surrounded by all of these medical professionals. And one thing that I know, believe me, I know you get tired of the doctor's appointments. But one thing I would encourage any person who has just gotten a diagnosis, or even anytime, if you've gotten a diagnosis or you're at any distance from your diagnosis, it's in your past somewhere, add a therapist, add a mental health professional to your list of doctors. Because if it weren't for her and being able to have that free flow venting, I don't know that I would have made it, because I felt, obviously my relationships were all broken. Many of them were broken. I didn't feel I had anyone I could talk to. I didn't feel like I had anyone I could really be completely open with and complain about everything with, because the last thing you want to do when a loved one does show up for one of their 6 days out of 60 is complain that they're not showing up enough, because you don't want to drive them away even further. So to really, there's only one healthy outlet for that, and that's a mental health professional. So I absolutely, like I said, that was a big part of it. And Grace, on my worst days, I mean, I got as close to, can it just be over, as, I mean, we all think that. And it's a terrible thing to have go through your head.
Yes.
It's terrible to think. The day that happened for me was actually 2 days after radiation ended. Because for those of you who haven't gone through radiation, it's a cumulative effect. So you don't feel anything right out of the gate.
You don't feel radiation immediately. It
No.
starts much later, the effects. Yes.
But 4 or 5 weeks in was when it started getting bad. But my oncologist said, my radiation oncologist warned me before he started. He said, your worst week will be the week after treatment is over. I'm sorry, Grace, that phone should not be ringing.
That's okay.
But yeah, that first week after radiation is over was the worst. And 2 days after, I tried to go to the bathroom. And you have to remember, the entire bottom of my digestive tract is irradiated.
Had been cut off.
Severely irradiated. No. This was after radiation, before the surgery.
Okay, yes. Okay.
So I was still passing waste normally at this point, or trying to. And it was like razor blades. It was like razor blades. I remember screaming at the top of my lungs, squeezing my husband's hand so hard that my nails dug in and drew blood from his arm while I was on the toilet trying to go to the bathroom, because I was in so much agony, like screaming. That was the moment, those were the moments of that when I was like, can this just be over, please? I'd rather it be over than continue to feel like this. And you have to be willing to face those moments down. And when you get that low and you have a mental health professional, that's why I lean on that mental health professional. If you don't have someone to talk to, I mean, hopefully you do. I mean, I honestly hope, but I'm sure there are countless people out there like me who didn't. And it's mental health, and it's just reminding yourself that when you do get to that bottom, wherever it is, remembering that there are bright moments, even in the worst of it. Even in the worst of it, find the little bright moments that will help you hold on.
I love that. Find the bright moments. Yes.
Find the bright moments. Find the nurse who brings you, whether it's, for me, when because after my surgery, I ended up with a severe infection. That's why I went back in the hospital. And the little things like the nurse who told me that she'd bring me ice cream anytime that I wanted it, even though technically that was against the policy of the prison. Just whatever little things it takes to find the bright moments, the little interactions. You'll get through it. You will. But in those emotional, you've just got to cling to whatever positive you can find, cling to it like your life depends on it, because it does.
Yes.
It absolutely does.
Absolutely. Um, by you getting a mental health professional to guide you through these crazy times,
Mhm.
was it something that you voluntarily had to look out for, or was it your doctors that suggested that you got in touch with a mental health professional?
Oh no, this was all me. And actually, I had
That
had
was
this,
you.
I had had this therapist before I got sick.
Okay.
I am a huge advocate for mental health,
Me
and
too.
I am
Yeah.
a huge believer that for all the stereotypes that you see in movies and on
Mm,
TV, the value of a therapist. And I'm not talking about a psychologist, because when everyone says shrink, you're thinking of a psychiatrist,
mm-hmm.
who is someone who prescribes medicine.
Mm-hmm.
No, the person you need to look for is the person who has LMFT after their name.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, they are a licensed marriage and family therapist. They do they are focused on
Counseling.
counseling. It's about counseling. It's not about medication. It's not about
Yes, counseling.
diagnosis.
Yeah.
It's about helping you get through the mental challenges that life brings you.
Yes, yes. So this is it's like holistic care,
It
taking care
is.
of everything,
Yep, it really is.
not actually yeah.
It
That
really
is
is.
necessary. That is necessary. A lot of people would actually think that they didn't need it or need that
But
kind of professional help, but it's it's very, very necessary to be able to get us through those times, all times, because
yeah,
life happens to all of us.
yep. And
Yeah.
that's the thing. You have to remember the two perks of having a therapist. And I tell this to everybody who asks me about it. There are two perks to having a therapist. Number one, you have someone who is legally obligated to listen to everything you have to say and not repeat it to another soul.
Yeah.
And number two, but here's the other important part, Grace. You also have someone who is morally obligated to call you on your shit. That
Mhm.
is, they don't let you stay in that mental place.
Mhm.
That's the thing. It's easy it's not just, things will get better. They teach you how to mentally bring yourself out of those clouds,
Exactly.
find the sun again. It's
Mhm.
not just about listening and taking it all in. It's teaching you the mental exercises you need to stay
Mhm.
positive.
To
And
get out of the abyss, because it's an abyss, as I always say. Yeah. If care is not taken, you dwell there for forever. If
absolutely,
nobody's
Grace.
there to
Absolutely.
reach
Yeah.
out and touch your hand. Yes, that's great. I love that. So I mean, like we had already touched on, your husband and friends that walked out of you. Those people that you would have thought would be with you come hell or high water.
Mhm.
And but look at you now. Here comes the sun.
Here comes the sun. That's
Da-da-da-da.
right.
So here comes the sun. You are a true inspiration. I mean, when we had our dry run and I heard everything that you had to say, I said, listen, I must interview this guy. You just have a whole um, just so much going about you, and no one would actually know what you have been through. You know,
Well, I am
and
very.
still, you had that. What do I want to say? That mindset reset,
Yep.
as I put it, and
Yep.
your mental health professionals can do everything that they're supposed to do as
Yeah.
mental health professionals, but at the end of the day, it's you that has to take you- uh, everything in your hands and say, yes, I'm back home now, so they've preached to me and now I have to practice. Do you
Yes.
understand?
Well, and it's interesting, Grace. We talk about a mindset shift, and that's
Hmm.
really what cancer did to me. Because before I got sick, I was very. I was. I'm a lot of the traits stayed the same. I'm still very quick thinking, very technical, very stuff like that. But I used to very much be a people pleaser. Like
Hmm.
I would let people walk all over me if I thought it would make them happy.
Hmm.
And what the cancer did from, I mean, it's I hate to be so cliche about it, but it makes you realize just how short life is.
Hmm.
And that there is nobody, and this is so hard. This was probably the hardest fact for me to accept, the hardest lesson from cancer to accept mentally. Nobody is going to care about me as much as me.
Nobody.
Nobody. And if I'm not taking care of myself first, everything else is useless.
True.
Everything else is useless because I can't be there. I can't do my best for others if I'm not taking care of me first. And that means I've become a bit more selfish. Absolutely. And I have no problem with that. I've become more selfish. I've become better at standing up for myself. I've become better at drawing healthy boundaries with people. All of these things. And what's funny is through that, I have transformed not only myself, but the relationships that I have with other people. My work relationships are the healthiest I've ever had. My my friendships that I'm building, these friendships that I'm building are the healthiest I've ever had.
And even the upcoming ones, the new ones that will come along, you already know exactly what to, look out for and what you expect people to give out to you. What you give out, you receive.
Yes, and that's exactly it, Grace. You just landed on it right there. Going through this experience, you learn exactly what you will and will not accept, and you learn to draw the line, because your life becomes, I think, this is the one advantage that we have as cancer survivors. We have a unique insight into the value of life that very few, I think that there are probably others in some others
situations
stand just how short. Yeah, there are other situations. It's funny, actually, Grace. I recently learned that our behaviors, not our attitudes, but our behaviors as people are settled in stone almost by 17 years old. Our behaviors, like the way we let people treat us and stuff like that. And the only thing that can transform that sometimes is a traumatic life experience. And that's exactly what I went through. And it has absolutely transformed my life. And I wish I could point to one single moment, Grace, where I was like, this is what's going to transform me. But it actually came much later. And, a lot of those mental health issues that I dealt with, not wanting to be myself, being super shy, like all those things were still bottled up in me after the cancer. But once the medical treatment was done, the mental health treatment sort of like accelerated. It was like 10 times normal speed. And that's when I hit this moment where I was like, I just need to be my damn self, and everybody can take it or leave it. Oh, did I lose you, Grace? Grace, can you hear me?
There's a problem. There's a problem with my mic.
Oh no, I can hear you now.
My speaker is not working.
Uh-oh.
Wait a minute. I'm coming. This is what I
No, I cannot hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you now.
Okay, now I can hear you.
All
now
right. My thingy has been having problems. I'm so sorry about that.
No worries.
Could you go back a bit? I could hear a bit of what you said.
Yeah, so what I was talking about was kind of this, the physical. So I had a lot of mental health issues with shyness and not wanting to be myself and kind of being ashamed of who I am, and a lot of being homosexual. I had a lot of internalized homophobia that I didn't realize I was holding on to. But what happened when the cancer medical treatment finished and I finally had that weight off of me and that transformation going for me, my mental health treatment kind of accelerated, it was like 10 times normal speed. I got through and I discovered the internalized homophobia and was able to deal with it very quickly. I discovered a lot of the issues regarding self-esteem with my weight, self-esteem, all these things. I was able to work through them much more quickly because, and again, it goes back to that value of life. When you realize how short life is, you kind of speed up a little bit, which is funny because you speed up for a bit and then you realize, because it's like you're overcompensating, right? So cancer
Overcompensating is the word.
right.
Yes.
You're going at normal pace. Cancer happens and everything slows way down.
Mm-hmm.
And then you realize how short life is, and then you go way up, and then you eventually realize, wait, if I go too fast, I'm not going to enjoy the time that I have left.
True.
And then you come back and you settle
At a normal pace.
at a
Yeah.
good pace. Yeah.
Yes.
So now I'm just starting to get out of that high of, because that period lasted for a while for me. That whole almost a year. That speed period lasted almost a year. It's what cost me that job that I told you about, the one I lost after 90 days. That's what cost it me, was the speed. Like, I was in such a damn hurry because life is too short and
Mm-hmm.
nobody around me wanted to move that fast. That's why I lost that job. Totally my
Mm-hmm.
fault.
Mm-hmm.
But now I'm finally starting to come out of that speed zone, and I'm realizing there's a balance. I can enjoy my speed in like the small day-to-day, like the work activities, getting those done efficiently, stuff like that. But I've also learned to just stop and look at the world around me and be like, wow, I'm sitting here in my office in this comfy chair talking to this amazing woman who is doing so many supportive things for cancer.
Oh, wow.
and being interviewed and having the chance to share the
Thank you.
story so that others can benefit from it. So it's, you eventually you get to the point where you settle and you realize that life is an amazing gift,
Mm-hmm.
and just live kind of, you end up with a live in the moment kind of attitude. Just savor what's happening, even the little things. I've learned to savor the little annoyances. A funny one, my keys got stuck. I wear my keys on my belt, Grace,
Mm-hmm.
and my keys got stuck on my seatbelt in my car and yanked on them. And normally that would be annoying, right? But instead of being annoyed, this is the shape. I don't know if you can see that real well. That's the,
Yes.
that's the shape that the key ring was stretched into by the grab.
Cancer.
And I've just accepted that this is really beautiful. And
Mm,
this would not have happened to me if it weren't for my seatbelt getting stuck or my keys getting stuck on the seatbelt. And you learn to embrace life's imperfections.
yes.
Life is imperfect, and when you embrace the imperfections in life is when you start to have amazing experiences.
And peace of mind.
Yes.
You need
Peace
peace
of
in your
mind.
life, you know?
Yep.
You don't sweat the small stuff
Yep. Yeah.
because one has been through so much, you know?
It's
So I know that you already or I introduced you as an app developer, an IT director, and everything. But I do know that there's some project that is giving you sleepless nights. They say when you have a project that gives you sleepless nights,
yes.
it's something. So could you
Yes.
please tell the viewers what you're on about?
Yes. What I'm on about. You make me sound like I'm a little crazy, and that's okay because I
No, you're not crazy at all.
am. Not any more than the rest of us, and we're
You're
all a
not
little crazy.
you're not crazy at all.
But so I've gone through this big health thing, and I'm not, and I wanted to. I've always been a, give more than I get out of the world, and I was thinking about it, and my cancer, anal cancer, is caused 100% by the human papillomavirus. 100%. There are
HPV.
HPV, 100%, which is sexually transmitted. It can also be transmitted via. The problem with HPV is pretty much everyone gets it at some point in your life. It's pretty
Mm-hmm.
much inevitable. It never
Mm-hmm.
changes.
Mm-hmm.
So it's caused by HPV, and of course there was some guilt associated with that because I was after my first divorce, I was very sexually active,
Mm-hmm.
and in my worst periods in life, I've been in some very unhealthy relationships with people who are guilty of domestic abuse and things like that. So when I was finally single and recovered from the divorce and all that, I wanted to start dating again. And I kind of was on a dating app online one night and had this kind of realization of just how unsafe I was being, talking to random strangers who can totally misrepresent themselves and have no idea who they are. And I'm like, well, holy shit. So I need to fix that. There has to be a better way to do this. So of course, then being a moron, I came up with the idea of another dating app. Like, we need more of those in the world. No, we
Mm-hmm.
don't. We absolutely do not. So the idea was, wait a minute, there's got to be a way to do this for everybody and help everybody out. So we're working, IU Technologies is the name of the company, and we are working on a platform to allow people to buy and own their own identity verification, like their driver's license, their criminal record, and their sexually transmitted infection status. And we're going to store it on a private database that you control on your phone. We don't own it. We don't keep it. And then we're going to give you the power to share that information with others with a tap. So what we're doing is we're allowing people.
When you say with others, you're talking about prospective partners.
Yes.
Okay.
Whether
go ahead.
I always say, Grace, some people are looking for a life and some people are looking for a night.
Exactly.
And regardless of what you're looking for,
it would work.
Yes, and we're going to offer integrations to all the dating apps. Any dating app that wants to work with us, we'll offer to integrate with them so that their clients can connect their members can connect their profile and share this information. But we really, and there's a lot of safety issues with dating too.
That is amazing, honestly.
Yeah. And we really, I want, when you lose all the connections in your life, Grace, you learn just how valuable they are. That's and I've come to believe, Grace, truly and frankly, that to connect with other humans is why we're here. That to me is the purpose of life. I am here to connect with as many humans as I can and make as much of a difference as I can before I go. And this is my way of allowing others to do that more safely. That's why it's my life mission, to set up this app and get it working and educate people about it and all that stuff. Because it's a very dangerous world out there. A million.
Yes, it is.
You and I talked about this in a pre-interview. 1 million people a day are infected with an STI. Every year there's 160.
And an STI is, for those that don't know,
sexually transmitted infection.
Okay.
So HIV, HPV, gonorrhea, chlamydia, syphilis. Yeah, there's a bunch of them. And HIV is leveling off, but all the rest are getting worse.
Yes, HIV. I mean, those that had HIV those years probably died from just thinking about it. Now they're surviving and thriving.
Yep. Yeah.
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 So this project, this new app that you're setting up will actually play a very positive role in ensuring sexual safety, especially among the youngsters. Because you hear a lot of stuff happening to the teenagers and pre-teenagers that are sexually active now. It's unbelievable what they're doing. Right.
Yes, it is absolutely. And here's the scary statistic for you, Grace. This is the one that drives me when it comes to young people in this country and sex. If you are if you're 24 or younger and you are sexually active in this country, in the United States, you have a 50-50 shot of getting an STD by your 25th birthday. A 50-50 shot.
Wow.
So it's like a flip of a coin.
Yeah.
Whether you get an STD or not before you turn 25. And that's scary, and it's terrifying. And, there will be people who, and Grace, this debate's been had over and over again, 10, 15, 20, I'm going to date myself, 20 odd years ago when I was in high school, the debate was whether condoms are abstinence. It's the same fight over again.
It's the same.
It's the same thing. But it comes down to the decision between security and convenience. And I want to make people protecting their sexual health and their physical safety as convenient as possible. And that's really what it comes down to. That's what I want to accomplish.
That is a gap that needs to be filled, especially with what's happening now in the world.
Oh yeah.
That is amazing. That is amazing. And please keep us posted as to what's happening. Anyway, we're in touch every day. So we need to know so that we can help in spreading the word as well.
Yep. I appreciate that very much.
Oh, definitely. We'll do that. So if you could go back to when you were initially diagnosed, what is it that you would tell yourself?
So my diagnosis story it goes back to the relationships. The day I got diagnosed, my surgeon was so good that she didn't need the biopsy to come back. She knew from doing the biopsy that it was cancer. She diagnosed me in recovery, coming out of anesthesia. I remember her coming to check on me a couple times, and I was still too foggy so she wouldn't talk to me. And that was kind of my first clue that something was wrong, because if I was fine, she would have just talked to me even though I was fuzzy. But she made a very deliberate point to wait until I was fully out of anesthesia. And then she came up to me, and I could tell by the look on her face something was wrong, and she said, it's cancer. And she really didn't say a whole lot else, because we had already talked about, she'd done a very good job of setting expectations with me, so I knew what was going on.
Mm-hmm.
But she told me, and my husband wasn't even there. It was his best friend, because he couldn't be bothered to come.
Mm-hmm.
So I broke down crying, and I sobbed, and he sobbed. The friend that was with me sobbed. And then he walked away to go get the car. And in that moment, Grace, if I could transport into that exact moment, that's the exact moment I would go back to, is after the friend had walked away and I was lying there in my biopsy, I would stop and write that moment. And the words that would come out of my mouth to myself is, you will be better on the other side of this challenge.
That's what you told yourself.
That's what I would tell myself in that moment is, you will be better when you get through this. You will be a better, stronger person when you get through this.
Yes. That is amazing.
And that is the message I would encourage all of you to tell yourselves, and if you are watching this and you are supporting someone who just got a diagnosis, that's what you tell them. You will be a better, stronger person on the other side of this journey.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's the truth.
Because it's the truth. And I'm going to be interviewing a caregiver very soon. Usually caregivers don't even know what to tell their wards. Yeah. And that what you've just said is just something in one sentence that would actually give hope to that patient or that survivor. Absolutely, So I know that we have come through so much and all that, but sorry dear, tell one viewer that is watching now, that will be watching, what it is that life has taught you during this experience. What has life taught you?
Grace, I thought we had prepared for this interview and I was ready for all the questions, but I knew you were gonna do this to me. I knew you were gonna hit me with one big one that I wasn't gonna be prepared to answer. That's what makes you a good interviewer, though. You prepare, but you don't prepare.
Yes, thank you.
One thing, so one viewer, I'm trying to, and here's the thing, I'm a big person on visualizer, so I'm visualizing, a lot of the cancer patients who were in with chemotherapy with me when I was in the chemotherapy room, they had tablets, and most of the cancer centers offer tablets for entertainment. So if you're sitting watching this interview on a tablet and you have a chemotherapy needle in your arm right now, and you are listening to this story and and you're wondering what, you're kind of trying to take it all in. The thing that I want you to know is this. You are your own greatest source of strength. When you reach that moment where you feel like it's all going to fall apart, and you will, unfortunately, just remember your inner strength. Remember the heart and the soul and the spirit that you've been given. And remember that there's always more of that. There's always more of that. Even when it feels like you're about to break, there's always more strength on the inside. And to whoever's watching this and you've got that needle in your arm right now, watching this while you're doing chemo, that's the message I want you to remember. Always look to your inner strength and remember it's always there for you. And it's always there for you. And whatever you call it, the universe, God, whatever your faith system is, it's coming from within you, and that strength is there.
That's amazing. That is a wonderful one. That's a very good one. I'm sure that will hit home to whoever is watching. I mean, it's hit home to even me that has gone through the same thing. You understand? Sometimes for those of us that have survived, touch wood, we still need that reassurance. You
Yeah.
understand, to keep driving us,
Yeah.
because it's difficult to actually plunge back into
Yeah.
the abyss that we were in. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm. And of course, like we had already discussed, cancer has divided homes and all that. For someone too that is watching, what would you say to that person regarding relationships? Not just someone going through cancer like us, but any relationship that um, is really heavy or would play a
Mhm.
very heavy part in cementing um, um, that husband and wife or boyfriend girlfriend or whatever, that family thing. What advice would you give to a couple right now? Maybe.
As some of my as some of the amazing artists in the R&B field, and I'm very very big fan of R&B music, would say, uh,
Great.
would be stop fronting. And what I mean by stop fronting is don't don't say I'm fine, don't say I'm good, and that goes for caregivers as well.
Mm-hmm.
Caregivers, we understand as patients the stress that you are under. It goes both ways. Be open about how you feel and communicate with each other. That is the most
Yes.
important thing. Be honest, communicate, say, I'm in miserable pain. If you need to scream, scream. If you need to yell, yell. If you need to cry, cry. But remember, if you are in that relationship, that
Mm-hmm.
romantic relationship, sometimes there is no solution.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes all you have for each other is to
Mm-hmm.
hold each other in that despair, in that moment
Yes,
of despair, and get through it together.
absolutely. Absolutely. And also not to deceive one another that the cancer will cement the relationship.
No, absolutely not. It's going to be the roughest ride you've ever gone through. This is not a romantic comedy. You're not going to have a bunch. It's not going to make your relationship suddenly better. It's going to make it worse, and it's going to make it harder. Just
Yes.
keep that communication open. Be 100% honest with each other, and don't hold back.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. It's not going to I mean, everybody should be full frontal like you have been, to say, listen, yeah, we're both going through this and that. Because actually, I have quite a number of friends who, as couples, have been through a lot and have walked away, and all. They're still friends, but a lot are not strong enough to bear the toll of having a partner who is a cancer patient. It's not easy,
Mhm.
but at the same time, don't always assume or expect that everything is in tip-top shape, because it never is.
Yeah.
There's a whole lot to do
Yeah, and actually,
right.
I have a suggestion for a couple who's going through that right now. There is an amazing relationship coach. Her name is Annie Lalla, Alla, and she does a lot on conflict in relationships, and some of her stuff is great. If you're struggling through this, she is all about how.
Annie Lalla, ANNIE
Yep,
LALA.
Lalla. So, but
LALLA. Okay.
yeah,
You send
and
it to me and I'll post the link on my wall.
but she's got amazing stuff for conflict in relationships, and her thing really inspires me because it's the further, the deeper you're willing to go into despair and acknowledge the pain, the stronger you get. And
Great.
that's what, and we cancer patients kind of get forced to do that. We don't get a choice.
You have no choice.
We don't get a choice, and that's what transforms us. It's
Yes.
that lack of choice. But just like everything else, her thing is the heart is a muscle, and in order for it to grow, it needs to be torn, just like
Mm,
any other muscle.
that's
And
fantastic.
yeah, it's great. So I'll send you the link to her stuff so
Please
we can add
do,
that to
so
yours
that
too.
I could share that. Now, since we're talking about the heart being a muscle and it doesn't grow until it's torn,
Hmm.
what about you? Have you closed your life to, or your heart to love, or are you, after your
No,
divorce, or are you going to
I,
be? taking another chance.
Oh no, Grace, actually, somewhere within 60 to 90 minutes after this interview, I will be going on a blind date. So
Nice.
for it's not the first date. I've been in several relationships, some of them been short term, and like I said, I was still going through a lot of emotional turmoil right after, and some of them still ended up being very unhealthy. But I was able to end them very quickly. When they were unhealthy, they were like over, done.
Yeah, toxic.
Yes, when I realized it wasn't a good fit, I was able to end it and draw those boundaries much more quickly. But this one, I kind of got a lot of hope for this one because this one isn't an online date. I was set up by a friend.
Okay.
And we've been texting back and forth for several weeks now. And
so you haven't seen the person?
No, I've seen him. I haven't.
Okay. No, when you say blind date, I'm like, oh, you don't know what he looks like, but at least you know what.
I know it. Yeah. See, for me,
Hey, for security, huh? Because I want to see you here tomorrow. So I need you. I need you to be safe.
Yeah. No. I'll make sure you know that I'm all right. But no. It's made my heart more open for love.
Okay.
And not just romantic love either. My friendships are deeper now. My, the level of compassion that I have for others. I find myself being more aware of the things going on around me. Someone's homeless or someone's struggling. I even if I don't have much, I contribute what I can to the things that matter, because my heart has been torn so much. It's been so opened to the struggles of others, and that's probably the greatest gift that cancer gave me.
Amen. That's awesome. That's
So.
awesome. I'm happy about that. That you're going to be giving yourself another opportunity, another chance. After having been through that experience, one now knows exactly what to look out for.
Yep.
And like dependency, you were talking about dependency, and that is something that we're just going to kill. It's not going to come up because we've been down that road before.
Yeah.
So
I posted on Facebook recently, Grace, you'll get a kick out of this. I says, you know what? I don't want a man who needs me anymore. I want a man who is perfectly content without me, but decides to keep my crazy butt around.
I read it.
Yeah. Okay. So you saw it. So,
and I liked it.
Yeah, that's my attitude now.
That is the attitude you need to stay strong. Yeah. So this has been one hell of a. Have you enjoyed our talk?
Oh God, yes. Oh, this is amazing. Grace, and I know I've said it a couple times, but I need to reiterate this. If I had found your community and these conversations while I was sick, it would have been this would have been another source of strength for me. So what you are doing is so valuable, so incredibly valuable, and I am so grateful to have a chance to contribute in some way, and I'm so honored that you asked me. I really am. So
I'm much more honored that you came with me for the ride. This is a long ride, both of us.
Yes, of course. But and I'm sure there are thousands and thousands of others who are so grateful for what you're doing.
Amen.
On behalf of all of them, thank you.
You're welcome. So, last but not the least, have you embarked on any lifestyle changes?
Oh yeah.
In recent times?
Yes,
What have you been up to?
Within the last 3 weeks, I've hired a fitness coach to help me get my eating and my exercise and build good habits. I've hired an awareness coach who is working with me. Yes, he's freaking brilliant, and he's working with me on finding the little mental triggers that, like, the little dialogues that keep coming up in your head that slow you down because you're stuck on the same thing over and over. He helps me find those and pull them out and get rid of them so I can focus on new things and be aware of new opportunities. So it's all about transformation for me right now. I'm working on my own website. I'm working on a new podcast, all kinds of stuff. So.
Oh, awesome. I want that podcast one. I want conversations. Yes.
Yeah. Well, no, it'll be great.
I love to talk, I love to communicate and all that. So thank God this has kind of given me some kind of leverage to be able to, and also to extract those little things from people who have walked down our road and haven't been able to expel, because you really need to expel and exhale to be able to move forward.
Yeah,
Right.
and that's why it goes back to the communication. You know, Grace, my recent breakthrough started, like my mental breakthrough and the kind of the transition that I'm in now
Mm-hmm.
started with me broadcasting on YouTube the 5 worst things that ever happened to me, including the cancer.
Mm-hmm.
That release was the first thing that opened me up, like, oh my God, I'm missing so much in the world.
Yes.
Everything you hold on to, everything you keep in is just a little tiny weight, or a big one. It could be a small or a big one, but everything you hold on to and don't release is a weight. So fine, that's why mental health professionals are great, because they're a great way to release those
That's
weights.
why I don't hold on to anything. I mean, I say it like it is. People
Yep,
say, "Oh, you look 30 years younger," or whatever. Yes, because I don't know how to keep things in my heart. You know,
yes,
I like to talk. I like to exchange, and once you keep harboring certain things or being, it affects you.
yep,
You look
absolutely,
older than your age. You look, you're unhappy. You have nobody to, you
yep,
know, discuss with. And that's what I tell people. I said,
yep,
open up to those closest to you and let them know what you're going through. I can't be of help to you, and you can't be of help to me if we're not communicating.
yep,
Understand?
exactly.
Dear Paul, thank you so much for taking your time. You're at work, right?
Yeah, no, yeah, yep. But
Okay.
no, Grace, this is absolutely worth it. Again, thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for being a part of this. And I'm sure we're going to do it again next time. There's so
for
much to talk
sure.
about.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah,
So let
yep,
me just sign off before. Um, right, everyone. Thank you so much for listening to this interview with Paul Sando. He's been such an amazing guest. And I know we're going to do it again sometime. Like I said, for those of you who are just watching for the first time, maybe you've just been told about Cancer Convos with Grace B. Do join us by liking our page and following us on Facebook, and also by subscribing on YouTube. You wouldn't want to miss out on all those updates and upcoming episodes, okay? So until then, my dear friends, wishing you love and light. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you so much, Paul.
thank
God
you.
bless you. See you again. Bye.
Bye.